one thing we're going to really be concentrating on now is rugby. You know, the autumn internationals, we've been without rugby for a while. We need to get back into it. And to do that, I've got one of the best people in the podcasting world when it comes to rugby. From the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast, it's their very own host, JB, is on Sportacino this morning. JB, live from the dungeon. Great to have you on the show this morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Really glad that you're here joining us. So we've got Wales versus Australia this weekend. You know, Wales, they've lost their last 11 tests against Australia. Are we expecting anything to change this time around?
Well, the long answer is we really don't know. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating game because you've got two teams here with basically parallel recent histories. So if you think about it, we've got Wales, who have been soundly beaten by the All Blacks, prior to that been beaten by England, whereas we've got Australia, who was soundly beaten by the All Blacks, and then prior to that a 3-test whitewash against Australia. So the really important thing about this test really is it's one which both teams have to win just to kind of get a little bit of pride back, and with uncertainty in selection. Actually, what we're going to find is we have no idea which way that this test is going to go. It's going to be fascinating.
So both the teams announced their lineups later today. I think Wales announced theirs at 11 GMT. I think Australia do theirs an hour later. What surprises do you think we might get in the Wales team?
Well, the only big surprise that could happen is Wales might look at replacing Jamie Roberts with someone like Scott Williams. Now, if that was to happen, that would be huge, because that is basically saying Wales wants to play a different way to how they've played over the last, best part of 8 years. I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we're going to see a deviation away from the original, Gatland-style plan. And as for Australia, they might also have a selection headache at 13 or 12 actually, due to unavailabilities. If there's going to be a surprise, I would say it would be in the centres. I think they're going to stay relatively steady though.
Yeah, there's talk about Israel Folau playing at centre for Australia. Do you think that would be a good move for them?
Well, it's interesting, the Israel Folau question. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's probably their most talented athlete. Underneath the high ball, for a long time, he was absolutely superb. I don't think there's anyone in the world quite as good as Israel Folau underneath the high ball. But last year, the Waratahs employed him at 13 with great success. The problem with Israel Folau is there's only one of him. So as much as you like him to play at 13 and 15, it's not possible. So if they go for his sublime skills out in the wide channels, they're going to have to sacrifice him at fullback. But that might not be an issue because they do have some other very, very fine players there, just not quite at the same level as Israel Folau.
And how big a loss is Sam Warburton for Wales? Can they get by without him?
I think they probably can. Sam Warburton is a sort of player. I mean, we know exactly what he is now. He's superb over the ball. He's a very steady player. But I think one of the issues that Wales have had recently is there's not enough player turnover. They've got a very settled team. The settledness of that whole side is probably their biggest weakness as well as their biggest strength. With Sam Warburton exiting the stage because of injury, you've got to say it's a phenomenal opportunity for Howley and Gatland from afar to have a look at what someone like Moriarty can do. So if they start with Moriarty, Lydiate and Justin Tipperick, there is an argument to say that there's a few too many round pegs in square holes there, but it'll be good to see them all working as a unit, and also gives a chance to give experience to someone like a Dan Baker should they go that way, or King. So it's not all bad. Obviously, you'd like to have your captain with you, but in the scheme of things, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
They haven't announced who will captain the Wales side. Who do you think it will be, or who do you think it should be as well?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, the rumours doing the rounds are Gethin Jenkins, which I think is quite interesting because props nowadays don't usually tend to stay on too long, particularly not if you're Gethin Jenkins. Also, Dan Lydiate was mentioned. Now, Dan Lydiate strikes me as a little bit of an introverted character. I could be wrong. I don't know the guy, but that's how he comes across. For me, the natural leader in the whole team would be Jamie Roberts. The stuff that he does week in, week out, the way he puts his body on the line, makes his tackles. He's such a key figure for that Wales team. I'd probably look at him, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll be someone in the forwards.
So yeah, Rob Howley's now taking charge of Wales. Warren Gatland's gone to the Lions. How much do you think the team will change under this new head coach?
Interesting. Well, with Rob Howley, what you have is a guy who's learned all of his rugby under Gatland. He's done a small stint in Cardiff Blues, but then the majority of his time is either playing for Gatland at Wasps or working with him in the coaching capacity at Wasps, and more recently at Wales. So to think that Rob Howley's going to go away too fundamentally from what Gatland has done doesn't really stack up. If he does, again, I think he'll be looking to play a more expansive game. And the only bit of footage we've got of the Rob Howley team is the record win over England about 3 or 4 years ago. So, maybe he might open them up a bit more, but my suspicion is he'll stick fairly rigidly to what Gatland has already put in place, albeit with maybe a bit of his own accents incorporated into the game plan.
Well, we've spoken a lot about Wales. We've got a comment here on the Facebook page right now, JB. We've got one from Matt East here. He says, "Hi, Rich. Greetings from Sydney. Very sad news about the passing of Welsh second rower Alan Wynne-Jones's father. Wallabies looking strong ahead of the weekend match. Question over Folau's position. Rhys Webb, big threat from Wales. Looking forward to it." Yeah. How dangerous do you think Rhys Webb will be?
I think Rhys Webb is possibly the finest 9 in the British Isles. Tremendous player. Very, very powerful. Quite a big lad too. People don't give him enough credit for that. He's about 6 foot. And I think the biggest danger that Rhys Webb poses is, he does all of the basics of a scrum half very well. He's got superb service from the base, and he's also got a tremendous relationship with either Dan Biggar or Sam Davis, whoever they decide to pick. On top of all that, very, very good athlete and genuinely fast.
Do you expect him to start for the Lions then?
I would, yeah. I mean, looking at the other options available, it looks to me as if it will be a straight shootout between Conor Murray and Rhys Webb.
Well, we'll have to wait and see about that. Of course, we've got all of these autumn internationals until then. What matches are you looking forward to in the next few weeks?
Well, I've got a soft spot for any match that's been played in America. So this weekend's game in Chicago should be an absolute beauty. On top of that, the one that everyone should look out for, if you're a rugby aficionado, it is, I think, Friday night at 12 o'clock UK time, is Japan versus Argentina. That should be brilliant. We've not seen Japan have a proper outing since the World Cup, which you could watch in the UK. Sounds to me as if they're trying out a couple of new faces. I heard a report they might even have 4 debutants playing. And of course, there's Argentina, who have done really well in the Rugby Championship. They're starting to hit their straps a bit. They're starting to record wins over Australia, South Africa, unsurprisingly, not New Zealand yet. And Japan versus Argentina should be a really, really good game.
Yeah, it's great to see that these teams are really starting to emerge and really battle against the bigger teams. I was there at South Africa versus Japan at the World Cup. What an amazing experience that was. So thanks for getting your thoughts today, JB. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. For those who don't know about what you guys do at Egg Chasers, could you tell us a little bit more about it and also how we can continue to learn your great knowledge about rugby on the various different social media platforms, please, mate?
Well, firstly, I'm not sure if there's any great knowledge to be gleaned, but if you want to find out more about us, you can find the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast, which is a bit of a satirical roundup of the world in rugby. It comes out every Monday, On Twitter, that is @Rugby Podcast. And if you want to find my podcast, which is interviews with players, coaches, journalists around the world, that comes out usually Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when we get the interview done. That is @Rugby Dungeon. So the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast and the Rugby Dungeon. And on top of that, we've got a Facebook live stream. But can I just say, it is not nearly of the quality of Sports Chino.
Oh, thank you very much. And I know you guys have got some great output and you do some great things. And yeah, for everyone watching and listening to this show, please go and check them out. Thanks for those kind words. Thanks for your great knowledge today, JB. JB from the Egg Chasers Rugby Podcast, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Cheers, Rich.